Hey, this is Seth with InDemandCareer.com. I show people how to get jobs in digital marketing with no previous experience or education. And I just figured I'd shoot a video talking about some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about business, starting a business. It's 2020. The internet's been around for 20 years, but people are still very slow and misguided when it comes to business. And it starts in the home. It starts in the culture, because business is not taught to us when we're younger. But it's even worse because people go to business school and they come out with just no clue about how to actually start a business. Most of the successful people that I have learned from did not go to business school. Some didn't even go to college. Some didn't even graduate high school, because building a business, starting a business is just completely non-academic. I went to college a long time ago, learned a lot of nonsense. Everything I learned about business marketing and my success to this point was because of things that I learned myself through the internet or through mentors. So the two biggest misconceptions I will say right now is, number one, we have kind of a weird religious relationship to starting a business. We deify people like Steve Jobs and all of these mega successful people. And the idea of starting a business becomes really distant and huge. Like, if you tell your family you're going to drop out of college to start a business, they're like, oh, what do you think? You're the next Mark Zuckerberg? And the reality is that most people who are working a day job, what are they making? 50,000, 60,000 a year is fantastic, or is really good. And then up to, maybe you make six figures, but you don't need to make millions or billions of dollars in your business to be successful. That's one of the big misconceptions. Like, oh, you're going to be Mark Zuckerberg? No, then stay in school and get a steady job. If you could make 30, 40, $50,000 a year from your business, that is successful. So the first thing, people need to recalibrate their expectations and say, hey, I don't need to make whatever you're selling. That's the next thing I'll get to. Whatever you're selling, you don't have to sell, you don't have to become like Oprah or, Nike or something. You pick a small targeted market and make a few sales, and pick a business with a good profit margin and all these things. And then when you realize, hey, I only need to have a few hundred customers a month or something, then it's more realistic. Everybody compares themselves to these ridiculous ideals of Facebook or these big brands that are making millions of sales every month. That's after years and years of growth. That's not for the average person. The second misconception is, people have this sort of Shark Tank idea of business, which is, people go on Shark Tank with their inventions, which is great because you see all these great innovators and inventors. Some are good, some are terrible. And they pitch, people like Mark Cuban and Damon John and stuff. And they say, hey, I need an investment in my company. I have this great idea. And they're all, it creates a misconception that business is about creating products. It's still very old school. This idea, I'm going to create a new innovation. There's this new widget, this new gizmo, this new, thing. And then they go to the investors typically because they want to scale up the production. And it's all about manufacturing physical products. And the problem with that is that it's very hard to be successful. And it's also very hard to sell physical products that you've invented. All the innovation, all the growth these days is in tech and the internet, which is why all of my business is based on the internet. Think about things like apps and websites, though that's not a physical product, that is a digital product. And I think that is where it makes much more sense to begin. But this idea that you're going to create a physical product, as soon as you do it, your first problem is, if you want to scale it, you have to manufacture, and that's a lot of money. Now, if you have some money to invest, or if you're, one of my good friends and business partners is manufacturing a shoe in Vietnam, you know who I'm talking about? That's awesome. It's a big investment. It's a lot of work. And you can find factories to produce stuff, but it's not like you just sort of started in your basement or your garage at that point. That's not even how some of these big companies, started. You have to invest so much money in these physical products. And I see a lot of these people on Shark Tank, pitching their products, and I'm always like, I don't know. It's just not, to me, it's not where we should be looking these days if you're wanting to start a business. Because again, everything's becoming so digital right now. So the third misconception, I would say, is that people still maybe now it's changing pretty drastically because of COVID-19, but the idea of starting a business, people really associate that. And if you go on the web and start Googling it, you're going to see that the idea of starting a small business is still associated with physical brick and mortar stuff. That could be, technically, if you're a lawyer, you graduate law school, you're starting a business. It's a law business. If you're a doctor, you're starting a doctor business, and that's good. But people still say, "Oh, I'm going to open a shop." And as we've seen right now, who's getting killed during this time? Shops, physical stuff. It sucks, and eventually it'll bounce back. People will go back outside. But in my experience, when I talked to people even 5 years ago before this happened, I said, "Why go with a physical business? It's so much of an ass ache." You have, first of all, right out of the gate, you have overhead that you don't have with a digital business. You've got, you got rent. You got to pay employees to be at the store. Right there, you're spending thousands of dollars before you've made any profit. When you have a web-based business, God, it's really getting hot in here. I just finished a bike ride too. When you have a web-based business, you can really start those types of businesses from your bedroom. That's what I did with all of my websites and even my course. I built this thing in my bedroom. And, it's an incredible opportunity with the internet to do things digitally because you don't have these incredible overhead costs to begin with. Starting a website is an investment in your education, your knowledge, and then things like web hosting and things like WordPress or Wix or whatever kind of web hosting you're using, or Shopify. There's things like drop shipping. I don't have much experience with drop shipping, but all the virtual businesses are ones that you really can start pretty inexpensively. Even if you're doing like a drop shipping business or anything where you have to have an inventory, you're still only spending a few $1,000s versus with a physical business, you are spending tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So, the last misconception I'll say is that there's this idea that you need business school, and it's just bullshit. It's just so sad what is taught in these business schools. And I've gone through I'll probably do another video about the curriculum. You're learning this high concept bullshit, guys. I had a student recently just got a job in digital marketing who was talking about his MBA. It was just such a waste. You're learning it's just high concept nonsense. Most business students take statistics classes. Why in the frig do you need a statistics class? You're doing this high level, highly analytical, esoteric math that is not going to help you open a shop and sell a product to a customer, to help a customer with their needs. Nothing to do with that. And people come out of business school and they're like, they have not been trained in the proper skills that business school is supposed to provide. So the good news is that, I maybe I'm repeating myself. I think I made another video about this. All the people I've learned from, all the successful people that I know, none of them have business degrees. None of them. I think I know like one guy. Everyone else is self-taught, entrepreneurs, just figuring shit out, learning from other mentors. And that is a big thing because a lot of people do have this fear of business, the idea. It's not what, it's still rare because most people have been trained to be like in school, we're trained to be followers, we're trained to get a job, not to create the jobs. So I just want to tell you that like all the success I've had came well after college from learning about shit on the internet and from people I met at events and just in life. And the people who taught me the most, some didn't even graduate high school. So I think that it's always a good time to start a business. You just have to know, that's really, I guess, I wouldn't say it's a misconception because I'm kind of riffing off the top of my head, but I guess I'd say a misconception about business is that business is like this all-encompassing term. There's so many different types of businesses. And during this pandemic, many businesses are struggling and others are thriving. Certain e-commerce students of mine are doing e-commerce, are just crushing it. There's one student of mine selling jewelry. He's making so much, and other businesses are down. So you have to really dig into this idea of business. It's like, well, what problem are you solving? That's really the question. And there's so many problems. There's so many things to solve. There's so many things to innovate on. But just don't get stuck in this idea that, I have to solve people's problems through a physical storefront. I have to solve people's problems with a physical gadget or something that needs to be manufactured. The business model, I'm going to do a whole other video on this, that I've just love and has subscribed to forever is information products. I solve people's problems with information. And I'm going to do a whole other video about this. But even to think about apps, games, software, everything is everything is just, so many things are moving digitally. And I'm not against starting real world, real life businesses. There's tons of opportunities there. I'm just saying it's a lot harder to do. It's definitely also harder to do while you have a job. The great other thing about doing a virtual, some type of online business is that you're reaching people through all of these automated means, through digital marketing, whatever it is. And you can do this stuff while you have, like I started my first online business while I was working full time. I couldn't have done that if I wanted to start a brick and mortar business. And I guess the last thing I would say is the biggest misconception people have about business is, it's not really a misconception, but they don't understand that marketing is your business. They don't pay attention to the marketing. Any business, you could start any business, and if you have the right marketing, it will be successful. And if you have shitty marketing, it will not be successful. And it is so essential. It is so important. And that's why, one of the reasons I teach it. So those are a few of the misconceptions about business. So anyway, I've been talking for about 10 minutes. Let me know if this was helpful, guys. I'm going to try to be making videos a little more frequently. I like just kind of riffing. Ask me any questions or anything you want me to make a video about, and I will see you next time.